Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it. You already know. You know what? In fact, let's get it like this. Welcome back to Gunners Collective TV, man. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Put your notification bell on all, so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content that the gun is kicking. Ding, 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 ding. Hit that notification bell. I appreciate it, man. I'm very humbled by all the support. So have you watched that new documentary, that PBS documentary on the hunger strikes in Pelican Bay? Well, I have, man. And I kind of wanted to react to some of the things I've seen. You know, some of the sacrifices that were made, and some of the, when you get together with another ethnicity, or when gangs come together on the California prison yard, they can make moves, okay? And these guys definitely, they made changes, okay? They made changes. It took a lot of sacrifice, and I've been part of hunger strikes, right? I've done hunger strikes on 2 different occasions. Now, I wasn't in Pelican Bay. I wasn't a part of those hunger strikes in 2011, and then after that, but I was definitely a part of a hunger strike in the county jail, Merced County Jail. And the reasoning behind it was simple. You know, we demanded change because there was a lot going on at the time, especially in the active Norteño pod, which was 3 block at the time. And what we had going on, man, was what we figured was targeting. Okay, we felt that the sheriffs were targeting us, you know, because of the activities. And, you know, we had it coming. To be honest and truthful with you, when you're a gang member, you ain't got shit coming, and all the bad you got coming, you got coming. Put it like that. And it was a situation where we were getting harassed. Our cells were getting, you know, hit at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. We were being placed in holding cells, 17, 18 of us at a time, crammed into what would be like a 6-man cell. It was just absurd. It was crazy, the things that was going on. And at the end of the day, we felt it was retaliation for a homeboy acting out on the streets with a cop or whatever. For whatever their reasoning was, you know, they utilized reasoning like, hey, these guys are active gang members. We're trying to catch any notes that they might be passing, any contraband that they may have. And that's understandable. They're required to search a certain amount of cells. And of course, they're going to target active gang members or who they believe to be active, validated gang members. And it was what it was. We understood the game. It's a cat and mouse cop and robber game. But at the same time, when they're starting to overextend their hand and do too much, people get fed up and tired of it. Now, one thing I do know in the California prison system, just like the California jail system, right? The county jails throughout Northern and Southern California. Here's the real deal right here. Here's some knowledge you can't get in college. The only reprisals that happen that really matter is when people come together. Right? When people make a stand, when you realize that your voice will be heard collectively rather than individually. See, if it's just Norteños doing a hunger strike, cops ain't tripping, man. You know, the safety, the security, the integrity of the institution, the beat goes on, right? If it's the Southsiders, it's going to make a little bit more of an impact because they're deeper. Black inmates, if they decide to do it, man, they are deeper. And then Woods, brother, fuck that. We need coffee, brother, right? You know, but when everyone comes together, voices get heard, demands get settled, and things happen. And they definitely did that from what I seen on that PBS special in Pelican Bay. You know, these guys took a stand, and unfortunate as you may think it is, it's crazy. Now, that is a hunger strike is pretty much the only way in California that a prisoner, a convict, an inmate, whatever you want to call them, can take a stand. I mean, you could try to do a sit down. They're just going to snatch you up, cuff you, and place you where you don't want to be. You can go out on the yard and rushing people, but all that's doing is accumulating time, and they're going to disperse you. They're going to send, you know, people who they feel are in leadership positions to different prisons, and that's how they disrupt that. But when you do a hunger strike, that's something they cannot control. See, they're only obligated to bring the food to your cell and give you the option to eat. Now, a lot of those cops are going to be like, hey, eat or not, we don't give a fuck. As long as we did our job providing you guys the food, then it is what it is. But what happens over time is when food is provided, but the inmates are refusing because of a hunger strike, right? There starts to become complications, medical issues. The administration starts to get looked at a certain type of way because medical, especially if it gets leaked out to family members that are out there, hey, they're in a hunger strike. This is why. Now, there's always reasoning behind it. One thing about prisoners in California, it's a respect thing and it's a real thing. People are not just going to fuck with the K-9, the cops, because they're not going to be unprofessional in their willings and dealings with the officers. Hey, people understand when they're doing time in the California system, it just is what it is. You do the crime, you do the time, and there's going to be rules and regulations. That's just how it is. Within the gangs, there's going to be politics, and with the administration in the prison, there's going to be prison politics. And that's how that goes. And nobody is going to go out of their way to disrupt another group's get down, because there's a lot of business being conducted on them prison yards. And if you fuck it up for someone, man, that could set the whole prison off. Now, there are those groups that don't give a fuck what the other group is going through. But at the end, that's a lack in professionalism, and that's a lack of respect for another man. You got to understand, no matter what gang you're from, no matter what group you're from, that's still another man across from you, right? And you got to treat others how you want to be treated, and that's with respect. You're only acknowledged, your group, your gang, your organization is only acknowledged and respected if you treat others with respect. You got to demand your respect, earn it, but you also got to disperse it like you've earned it. That's a fact. Now, if it's wartime, if it's guerra, it is what it is. Everybody knows what time it is. No one's going to speak on it. They're just going to go out there and handle their business. Again, it's all business, no pleasure. It's all business, nothing personal. Now, as far as hunger strikes go, they have been used in the history of the CDC, and they've worked. Quite recently, the last hunger strike that I remember was the one during the end of hostilities, and it got the point across, right? Because like I said, the administration, they cannot force you to eat. They can only provide for you. And at first, it's going to be a situation where like, hey, if these guys are taking a stand, let them be dumb if that's what they want to do. But when people start to fall out, people start to, go through the motions. And you got dudes that are in there with health problems, diabetes, other diseases, pre-existing conditions. And, you have no choice. You have no choice but to get on with the get on. So here's the thing. If you're a part of a group and they are participating in a hunger strike, if you're going to function and be active, then you're going to be actively a participant in that. That's just like if a riot happens on the yard, one jump, all jump. Everyone's going to be involved to some capacity. Now, if you're disabled and you can't fucking put hands on someone, you're going to participate in maybe holding weapons or doing whatever you're going to do. But you will participate to some level. You will defend that household. And that goes for the Norteños, Southsiders, blacks, whites, others. It doesn't matter. If your people are at war or your people are taking a stand against oppression, then you are going to be actively involved to some degree and at that level. Now, with the hunger strike, everybody must participate, unless told otherwise by the leaders of your group faction. There are dudes, man, that have special diets or there's special concerns with them because they're sick, and they might get a pass. But for the most part, everybody is going to come together because you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? So everybody must participate. So that way administration realizes, hey, the coming together makes these guys more powerful. Now, hunger strikes are the only thing administration cannot control. They can control movement. They can control your water, your bathroom. They can control all that, but they can't control your consumption, what you choose to eat or drink. That's what they can't do, right? And, convicts a long time ago figured the recipe out and said, hey, if we stop eating, if we take a stand, this is a way to show, solidarity, unity, but also a way to demand change where they are forced, their hand is forced, and they have to do something about it because you can't starve people out. Once people start falling out, and I've seen it a couple times, and like I said, I've participated in it. I remember one homeboy, he went volunteer. Well, he ran his mouth, man. He kind of volunteered himself to do some sort of a hunger strike and refuse food. He lasted almost 30 days before he ended up falling out. They hit him with the IV and took him up out of there, right? He lost about 100 pounds in the process. His equilibrium was off. He went unconscious. It was all bad, right? Now, I can tell you about a hunger strike I was involved in. It was in the county jail, and trip out on this. I don't want to do this shit again, right? That shit was ow, boo, boo. But as a Norteño, an active Norteño, man, because my people demanded that we do it, there was no question it was going to be done. And believe me, I was hungry than a motherfucker. Now, in the county jail, you don't have much like you do in prison. In prison, people have packages, they have fat commissary. Now, you do in some county jails get a nice commissary, but for the most part, a lot of guys ain't got it like that, right? So you pretty much have what you have. Now, here was the rules of the game. Whatever we had within our cell that was our personal, as far as soups, cookies, candy bars, canteens, shit like that, we were allowed to consume. You were allowed to eat, but that only goes so far when you're in an 8-man cell with 8 other homies and only 2 homeboys got cantina, right? Of course, everyone's going to share. That's canalismo, that's unity. But after a while, it goes away. The food's gone. Okay, so what happened was they hit us right before canteen. They knew that canteen, without us having canteen, the struggle was real. We were anticipating canteen. Everybody had their little money on their books. And they started hitting our cells 2, 3, 4 in the morning, snatching homeboys up, basically violating our rights, whatever little rights we had. And so we took a stance. The homeboy decided who was the homeboy to decide, hey, homie, we're going to go on a hunger strike. And we did that. And let me tell you right now, man, they didn't care. County jail is much different from CDC. They were like, if you guys don't want to eat, you guys don't got to eat. We'll just throw this shit away. They were doing things like bringing they would actually bring the cart right in front of us, scrape all the food into the garbage can and leave it right there in front of us so we could smell it, but we couldn't taste it. And it was our own situation that we had created. But really, if you look at it, man, that's fucked up to do grown men like that. But this was part of the reasoning why we were doing what we were doing, is because we were being treated a certain type of way. Now, eventually, over time, the powers that may be stepped in, and we were granted some of the things that wishes that we wanted. And that was just to be left alone. We understood you had to do your job, and we didn't try to impede them in doing their job. But at the same time, man, this extracurricular activities that were going on, we weren't with. A lot of our family members, a lot of our peoples got at the news. They got at lawyers, and things changed. It's tremendous the type of things that can be accomplished, man, with inside and outside help. You can't just depend on vatos on the inside. You also need outside help. That's when your old ladies, your family, they become involved, and it helps tremendously. Now, I seen the thing they did in Pelican Bay. And in Pelican Bay, it was a much bigger stance. For those that don't know, for decades, there have been guys that were validated and slammed in the back with an indeterminate SHU program. An indeterminate SHU program means you're never getting out of the SHU. There's only 3 ways to get out of the SHU, right? When you're validated as a gang member and you're doing an indeterminate, which they don't have those anymore due to the hunger strike and the end of hostilities, right? One was paroling. You could parole, but best believe if you ever violate or come back to prison, you will go directly back to the SHU for the remainder of your sentence, right? Forever, basically. It was a forever sentence in the SHU. Secondly, was if you die. If you pass away, you're gone, right? You got off the SHU. Or if you debriefed, meaning that you worked with the cops or did whatever you did. There's different debriefing processes, but it is what it is. Basically dropping out of the gang or, saying enough is enough, tapping out, doing the what the fook, right? Now, that doesn't mean the debriefing process is like Boxer Enriquez and what we've seen on TV. There's plenty of different ways to do it, but I'm not here to explain it, right? But there was a lot of guys that have debriefed and a lot of guys that chose to get the hell off the SHU because it drove them mad, it drove them crazy, and they were being deprived of what they felt were their what is it called? Social status of equality. They just wanted what they had coming just like anyone else. You got to understand, when you make sacrifices and when you do things on the prison yard, you're going to be punished for it. There's repercussions. And they definitely made sure in that SHU program that them guys felt every bit of that. It was a form of torture. It was a form of deprivation. It was a form of everything like that. So collectively, these guys that did not see eye to eye, these groups decided to get together. And in order to do that and to come together and do a hunger strike and all that, first, it takes conversation. It takes an idea. It takes some real ones coming together, people that are respected highly, to decide, hey, we're going to do this as one unit. And even though we may not see eye to eye, even though if these doors crack, we may get off on one another, this is for the betterment of everybody involved. Now, when this end of hostilities and this hunger strikes went on, not everybody got involved. Not every single person. There was bulldogs that were getting at from Fresno. They decided they didn't want to be a part of it. There was other people that decided that they had no horse in the race. But the majority, the 4 major groups in prison decided this is what it was, and they did that. Now, their hunger strike lasted almost 2 months. And, I could understand people falling out and really going through it. But that's the sacrifice you make as a gang member. That's the sacrifice you make as someone who's in prison who feels wronged. You have to do these things in order to achieve the goal that you're aiming after. And a lot of people did that, man. I respect it. And you got to understand, politicians, people people that are advocating for equal justice, like Cesar Chavez, a lot of people did hunger strikes. I know Gandhi did a hunger strike. I know Cesar Chavez did a hunger strike. This is the way to bring awareness. If you're willing to make an ultimate sacrifice, people, it's a conversation. People start having that conversation and realizing, hey, this guy is a true believer in what he believes in. I was happy to say that the end of hostilities is probably one of the greatest things that ever happened in the California prison system. And they were able to achieve through hard work, determination, hunger strikes, outside help, lawyers, and just basic unity for whatever reason, right? Now, again, man, they got a lot of things accomplished, but not all the time do hunger strikes work. It hurts the people that are actually participating in it. Like I said, some people are sick. Some people are not conditioned for that. And see, one of the things in prison is you condition your body. You're constantly working out, so that means your body needs calories and food. So people that are on the yard working out, and a lot of people work out to stay healthy or because they're bored. Those are the two reasons. And when you're working out, you need substance. You need food, right? So a lot of people got canteen. They get extra food from the kitchen or whatever. I remember one of the biggest commodities in prison was not only coffee, brother, and cigarettes, but peanut butter. Peanut butter, because it has protein, it helps you while you're working out, it's fattening, and it's a filler. I know Dubs told me stories about when he was working in the kitchen or in that area, he would take buckets of peanut butter back. And you're not allowed, but man, the cops will overlook certain situations, at least back then. And you could take loaves of bread back to the unit and peanut butter, and he would give them to all the Southsiders in preparation for guerra or in preparation for hunger strikes, meaning, here, homie, you have this in your cell, so if we go on lockdown, you're not going to starve. Because, again, you got a lot of vatos that don't have outside help. They don't have support from their family. They don't have their old lady running it in. She's running it in with the black dude on the streets getting big chorra, like fucking Active Adam's wife, right? But she's not putting money on the books. And you can't depend on anyone. You did the crime. You got to, unfortunately, do the time. And so he was a real one, looking out for his gente, looking out for his people. Same thing happened on the northern side. We had a rule, man, that if there was a homeboy in a cell that didn't get canteen, we try to get him celled up with a homeboy that did have it good, so that way every homeboy would eat. Now, with the Northerners, there wasn't as many of us on the yard, so that was easier to accomplish. With the Southsiders, there's a lot of them, so there would be a lot of hungry people if the situation got bad, right? Can't speak for the brothers, man. They were doing what they do. I've seen brothers, man, eat in front of their cellies. Real life. Mexicans, you're not going to do that. You're not going to eat in front of me. Someone's getting stabbed in that cell. And believe me, there's a lot of brothers that get off where they're mad at as well. But I've heard situations, brothers have told me, hey, man, that fool ain't got shit coming. He ain't from my hood. He ain't my homie. Fuck him, right? With Mexicans, it's just a little bit more unity involved. And it's like, bro, we're going to starve together or we're going to eat together. But we're going to be together, homie, in this motherfucking cell. And so these hunger strikes definitely accomplished the goal that they set out to accomplish, but not without, people going through it. So do hunger strikes bring people closer together? They do, actually, man. You got to understand, as convicts, prisoners, everyone's going through the motions. Everyone's going through a struggle. Everyone's going through the same struggle. You might look at it differently because someone's black or white or brown. They're all going through the same struggle. You're all incarcerated. You're all getting oppressed. You're all fucking doing time, right? And it's a sticky situation. So when people take a stance like they did in Pelican Bay, that's the reason why we're talking about it. These are the conversations that are being held because of what they done, because of the sacrifices they made. Now, of course, if they weren't fucking doing crime and incarcerated in the first place, they wouldn't have to go through that. But this is life. This is the real world. Sorry, there's good guys and there's bad guys. And there's bad guys that are really good guys. And there's a lot of good guys that are bad guys, but no one fucking calls them on their shit. I will. The truth is this. I'm proud of what these guys accomplished. I'm proud to say that, man, as someone who was incarcerated for 19 years, I've seen a lot of solid dudes with a lot of solid mind state come together and make changes and differences happen through sacrifice. You say the ultimate sacrifice is going on the yard and taking a life. And in some cases that may be, you give up your life, you become a lifer, you get a lot of time. But to me, the ultimate sacrifice was coming together as men and realizing we are all the same, man, and we are willing to do what we have to do collectively as a unit to make it better and demand change. These guys did that. So as far as the Pelican Bay issue goes, I know there was a lot of guys behind the scenes that didn't even get the recognition they should have. And I think every person that participated in them hunger strikes should get the recognition, just like those that did, because everyone sacrificed. You know, ultimately they won. Ultimately, they got the things accomplished. They got those indeterminate shoes lifted up off them. And there are guys on the yard that spent 3 decades in them dungeons. You know, does it make it worse for administration now? Yeah, I mean, they have to do their job, right? But at the end of the day, we're all human. And whether you like it or you don't, whether you like the gangs or the groups or the organizations or you don't, the fact is they are there, man. And they have certain rights. And that's just what it is. Anyways, you know, as far as me going through hunger strikes, I did it a couple times and I was starving like Marvin Hagler, right? It was all bad. But I did what I had to do. I remember them placing us in a cell. And this was an involuntary hunger strike. They hit us in the county jail about 3, 4 in the morning, snatched us all up. There were 17 of us. They put us in a holding tank that was only big enough to fit 6, 7 people. We were crammed in there, gang of Northerners, right? And they didn't feed us for like 3 days. True stories. We were fucking going through it. We had because one thing about Northenians, it was a mandatory workout. You know, we ceased that after the second day, but shit just had to go down like that. We literally had to holler down to a homeboy that was not in good standings or bad standing. He was on freeze. They had him in not protective custody, but segregated, right, away from us. We had to holler down to him. All he had in his cell was a couple sopas, which of course he was trying to be in good standing. So he shot to us. And 17 active Norteños, me being one of them, made 2 soups work for 17 of us. That's called canalismo. That's real. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and strive for what I truly believe in. That's the fucking betterment of all people. Let me know what you think. Would you do a hunger strike? I've done it. It ain't no joke.